righty.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the December C4K community webinar. We are so pleased you're here to join us in talking about our new organization, Early Futures Partnership. I'm going to turn it over to Marti Beard, Rachel Sissel, and Jason Prokop to talk about the exciting things that are happening.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Noelle. And so good to see so many names and faces that we have the opportunity to work with throughout the year. So happy December and holidays and whatever way you want to celebrate. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if anybody else is already exhausted. It seems like December just is coming in with the bang, but good stuff. Lots of good things happening. But just already thinking, wow, when's the month? When's the month going to end? So today's topic is for Jason, Rachel, and I. Elizabeth Everett could not join us today. She's actually meeting with the state senator about LB 304 that we're going to talk a little bit about later today, too. But know that she sends her regards and wishes she could be here as well. So we are going to talk about the transition of Communities for Kids and First Five Nebraska to a new organization, new 501c3 that will officially launch on January 1st called Early Futures Partnership. And we promise to keep our remarks and presentation. Our PowerPoint is very short. We're going to share with you the highlights of kind of how we got to this. A little bit about the story and some of the work we've done the last year. But really today is to answer any questions that you guys have about Early Futures Partnership, First Five Nebraska, or Communities for Kids, and how that, any question you have is absolutely the open and on the table, and certainly also happy and welcome to reach out to any of us at any time privately if you want to have this conversation. So fantastic. I may do actually, let's just do a really quick introduction. Jason, Rachel, and I, just in case some people don't know who we are. I see, like I said, I see a ton of familiar names, but I am Marti Beard. I am currently the Vice President for Communities for Kids. I will be co-president with Jason of Early Futures Partnership. So, Rachel?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm Rachel Sissel. I'm currently on the Communities for Kids team. And once the transition happens, I will serve as Vice President at Early Futures Partnership, primarily focused on communities for kids.
Jason.
Yep. And I'm Jason Prokop. I am Director of First Five Nebraska. And as Marti mentioned, I will serve as the co-president at Early Futures Partnership along with her.
All right. Perfect. All right. So, Rachel, if you want to go ahead and start sharing screen, and like I said, we will have time for people to shout out questions. But if we say something as we're talking, throw those in chat as well, any questions that come up as we're talking. So, all righty. So here is the new name and logo. And it's amazing. For those of you that know me, you know that I am not a detail person. And most of the time, I don't really give two craps about what things look like. So this was a bit of a painful process for us. Rachel's actually going to talk later about how we got to this name. But I can tell you, and maybe Rachel will tell the story, we were almost the Wolfberry Gang. So Rachel can talk about that later, of why we decided not to go that route. So we are, as I said, going to just talk a little bit of an overview here. And what I want to share is that this conversation started about the time I started, which will be 9 years ago coming this spring. And when we first started Communities for Kids, Becky Veek was the executive director at First Five Nebraska. A couple months after I started, Becky Veek said, gosh, Marti, it seems like a lot of the work that Communities for Kids is doing is really about economics, about advocacy, about policy change. Have you ever thought about maybe we should partner? Maybe, C4K should have an office here. Maybe we should do this. And I was new at the time, and I said, I don't know, maybe we should. So really, from that point forward, though, I think it was very obvious to us. We were finding ourselves at the same meetings. We were finding that our teams were talking about a lot of the same things, and it was very natural. So this is not a new conversation. This is something that started at the same time that our work with all of you in community started with that. So fast forward to a couple years ago, Jason and I were in an elevator together and had a little bit of a what if conversation about, many of you know Mike Feakin, Jay Argerone. They attend our meetings. Mike is out, he's a regular figure in our communities doing events and meeting with all of you. And so we kind of had this what if. We were really looking for an opportunity to have a laser focus on 0 to 5. and also really be able to make some bold moves around what's happening at the local community, what's happening in our state, but then also what's happening at that federal level. Really wanted to make some changes to the systems that would directly impact our local providers. And so that elevator conversation was something we've revisited a few times. But then, Jason, I'll let you tell them about kind of what happened last November and how we got to today.
Yeah, and I dare to make this comparison over the lunch hour, but I've used it since then, so I'm going to stick to it. But I said we kind of, and Marty already alluded to it, we kind of go together like peanut butter and jelly. So we have always worked so closely together and so well together, and our teams have worked so well together and so closely together. Like it made total sense. And like Marty has mentioned, as we kind of were just having an initial conversation saying, hey, what do you think about something like this? Very informally, we kind of started thinking to ourselves, well, you know what, maybe this makes some sense to do this because it really enhances both of our organizations, our initiatives, efforts as far as what we're already doing. And so as kind of time went by and we kind of continued to do our work, we said, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Like this is something we need to seriously explore and see what that path forward may look like. So, going back, this has been a couple years in the making. Just as we had those conversations and did our research and homework around all these things. So, but it kind of all came back to the question that we had to ask ourselves is collectively and jointly, if we come together under the Early Futures Partnership organization, are we going to be able to deliver on our visions for each of our initiatives and enhance that through Early Futures Partnership? And the answer was yes. And so that's what led us to the point we're at today and January 1st.
Yeah. And so over the last year, what we have done is we've had some really great conversations with our current organization at Nebraska Children, got their blessing to move forward and their support and really see it. And I believe Mary Jo Pankoch, who's the president CEO of Nebraska Children, also believes that because of her leadership, because of her boldness and courage in developing Nebraska Children and then having all of these other programs be developed in the way that we were allowed to do very autonomously, really meeting communities' needs, that we have their support to do this. So it's almost sort of like we're leaving the nest, but with a good gentle push from them as well. So that has been really supportive and a really great transition for us as well. And so jumping into core idea is that most of you know this, but Communities for Kids has the two goals that we're always working on. One is increasing access. The other is enhancing quality for early care and education, primarily in our rural communities. However, we also are working with some great teams in Lincoln, Omaha, and Grand Island as well. And so one of the things you'll hear us talk about a little bit are the 3 Ps. And so that's practice, that's policy, and that's progress. And so we really see a lot of the work that's happening with all of you in your communities is that practice. What you're helping us and you're doing in your communities is identifying strategies that work for your communities, identifying innovative and creative ways to support the early care and education fields. So when we think about the 3 Ps, the practice is really what C4K will continue to do. So Jason, you want to talk about policy?
And I'll jump into the policy piece. So, from First Five's perspective, we're always trying to move the policy needle forward. So we're doing that through research and data. We're doing that through direct advocacy and working with communities. And we are developing our policy platform and our policy ideas by engaging with stakeholders. And a big part of that has been our work with Communities for Kids. And how we come up with our policy ideas is really from vetting it with saying, okay, this sounds good in theory, but in practice, how is this going to work? Where are the pitfalls? Where are the challenges? What are the things we are not thinking about? And that's where the marriage between practice and policy comes together so well, because we ultimately want to get to that progress. We're not here to just have a bunch of really good ideas. We want to actually be effective in delivering on those ideas. And you don't do that without making sure that that the policy is right, and the policy is only right if it's informed by those that are the practitioners and the community stakeholders that are telling us, hey, this is my needs, this is what I'm seeing, and then we go about how to address those. I think kind of a real world, or some of the real world examples of how this has happened, and things that have happened legislatively, prior to where we're at now is, for example, with COVID funding, when we we're thinking about ideas at First Five as to, okay, how can we make an impact with the CARES Act dollars that everyone was battling for, on a whole host of different topics, and how can we deliver quickly? Because that was the goal. These are one-time, quick delivery funds that we need to get to. And so I called up Marty, and Elizabeth called up Marty, and we said, hey, how can we do this? Can you guys deliver on this? And they did it. And when we got to the point of needing to count our votes and say, hey, it's going to be close, because again, it was very competitive for those dollars. Do you know someone in then, Senator Brewer's district? It was one phone call to Marty, one phone call to someone called Senator Brewer, and we had our vote that we needed. So it works that well together, that this is how it's worked and led to that progress that I mentioned.
Yeah, great example, Jason. We talk about that one a lot, but I also throw that kudos back to everybody in communities. That I think you've all heard me say before. One of the things our funder asked us early on is to build a demand in Nebraska, regardless of where you live, for high quality care and education. And it is amazing. Almost every county, there is one of you out there that we can call at any time. And you have overwhelmingly supported this. JR, I don't know if you're on or not, but the Policy Leadership Academy, and those of you that are alum or participating in that, it's just another example of where we really see progress going. So lots of great things happen, and so many cool things ahead for this. So this is Mission, Vision, Values. So just kind of giving you the words that we've all come up with our teams to really spell out what we are hoping to do here. And so I'll just pause a minute and let you read that, because I am not a person that likes to read off PowerPoints. I find that quite annoying. So. Perfect. Okay, so I believe we're going to turn it over to Rachel, who's going to tell you a little bit about the story behind the name, and then we will open it up for your questions.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why we decided to share the story behind our name is because we were so very intentional. And I'm also going to kind of tell a funny story that is probably a pain point for Jason, but I'm going to take the opportunity. So we were able to work with Oxide Consulting, Drew Davies, and then also Aaron Owen and Kelly Jefferson at Clarity Channels Communications, who really helped guide us think through this process. And so Marty mentioned that we had a lot of very creative names like Wolfberry. I was partial to Blue Stem Partnership, just a lot of names that really embraced kind of imagery that was associated with Nebraska and early childhood. The tipping point was when we were considering colors and branding and the name. There was a moment where Elizabeth, Marty, and I saw Early Futures Partnership on a tote bag. And that became our measuring stick. And Jason got very impatient with us about the tote bag, but it's all about the swag. He came to our side though. So we did decide to go with Early Futures Partnership. And the reason that we chose that, I'm going to tell you about, because again, very intentional. So early, obviously it's the direct connection to early childhood. And we know that that's the stage of life where strategically the investments have the highest return. It's not just about early childhood, but it's also about supporting young families across the board, and that maternal health. It also depicts the idea of our sense of urgency and the steady focus that we have on it. We do have a commitment to advancing outcomes for Nebraska children, families, and communities. Futures is really, it's intentionally plural because it reflects the possibilities not only of the futures of young children and our responsibility to help shape those futures, but also embraces Nebraska's futures. We know that early childhood impacts our economic future. And so, really, just taking that to be a part of our state's prosperity. And then partnership. We've obviously highlighted the organic partnership between Communities for Kids and First Five Nebraska that already exists. This allows us to, again, strengthen that partnership, but it's also about our current partners. So Marty and Jason have both mentioned the fact that we can call up partners across Nebraska in communities to say, hey, let's think about this, let's talk about it, let's learn more about it. And we really, really value that. And there was a moment where we sort of considered just using partners, but we're looking to the future. Throughout this process, one of the things that we've done is say, hey, this works right now. Is it going to be relevant in 5 years, in 10 years? So we wanted to create room for future partnerships. And that's how we came to the name. The next thing that we're excited to unveil is each of our initiatives went under a brand refresh. And so we're sharing our new logos and the family, the system family that we have. So you can see that Communities for Kids has gone through a refresh, as has First Five, and then are both reflected in the Early Futures Partnership logo. So this is kind of, we're hoping it becomes recognizable and embraced. I think they're cool. I'm going to keep going because Marty and Jason are just smiling. So also next, and this is just our final slide before we come off sharing screen and just create a conversation. We do have a landing page. Our current website will house both of our initiatives. Earlyfutures.org will be the site that we use, and we have an info at earlyfutures.org, which is live and active right now. So if there are any questions, you can certainly use that contact information. Then here is our contact information. Like Marty said, until our official launch on January 1st, we will continue to use this contact information. And then after that, our Marty and I's email, as well as the rest of the Communities for Kids team, will roll over into an earlyfutures.org. And First Five Nebraska is going to retain theirs because they always have so much going on and have partners not only locally, but also federally. Our offices will be hosted at the current First Five office. We're going through a positioning of rebranding that office, so it will reflect Early Futures, Communities for Kids, and First Five Nebraska. So I am going to stop sharing screen in a moment and just want to invite anyone that has questions, thoughts, or would like us to talk about something more to kind of just throw that in the chat. But not all at once.
Certainly somebody has something.
I have one if that's okay.
Oh, hold on. Ann came off. Let's let Ann
Oh,
go
okay.
first.
Yep.
Hi, Ann.
Well, I mean,
and
I was
Suzanne.
yes, I was just going to offer my sincerest congratulations to both of your organizations, and it's all very exciting and excited to see what happens next with early childhood in Nebraska.
Thank you, Ann and Suzanne. Appreciate that and your partnership.
Thank you.
And while you're thinking of questions, I just want to put kudos out. I know a lot of you on this call have started your own 501c3s and programs and childcares. God bless y'all. This truly, I mean, I'm not a young chicken, and this is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire career. So kudos to all of you. I have a newfound sense of just appreciation for those of you that have done this. So wanted to say that. All right. Jessica.
Hi. Yeah. I just had a question. We're Stromsburg. My name is Jessica Pallas. We're from Stromsburg, Nebraska. We are fairly new, Marty, as you know.
Yes, I
So I'm
do.
just
Yeah.
curious how if at all, like our partnership with like our TA, is any of that going to be affected, or is it just going to kind of transition under the new Early Futures
Yeah,
partnership? Or can you
good to see.
kind of just
Absolutely. I'm so
okay?
glad somebody asked because that was in our
Because I feel
list
like I
of
just kind of
yes.
understood it. So if it's going to
Yep.
change, I would
Yes.
like to know
Yes.
what
Great
to
to see
expect.
you. And John, I think Dr. Cerny, that's similar to your questions. So, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
And
Perfect. Okay.
how's it going to impact us?
Yes, absolutely. So we hope not at all is the plan. We have about 25 staff between Communities for Kids and First Five that will come to the new organization with us. Everybody, I believe, has signed their offer letter with a smile to join us on this venture. And so you will have the same technical assistance. You will have the same level of support from us. The difference will be is that many of you have probably gotten the email that your contracts are ending at Nebraska Children, but they will be beginning on January 1st with Early Futures Partnership. And so any funds that you had still left in that account, then those will stay the exact same. It's still the exact same, the $10,000 for 3 years if you're still in that contract period. And so all of that will remain exactly the same. And Noelle and Kara have worked really hard to find a replacement for web grants. I know many of you will be so sad to not have to. John, yeah, I agree. Woo! Thank the good Lord. But working with a system called Submittable that we're finding is a little bit more adaptable for our size of work. And I know Noelle and Kara, Noelle and I were just talking before this call. I'm just finding it a lot easier to use. And so we'll be rolling that out. It'll be easy. Correct, Noelle? Is that?
You're gonna love it. I think it's about a million times easier. I'm just kind of getting everything, our ducks in a row to make sure our instructions to everyone are going to be really simple to read. But I think it's going to be a huge improvement. So I'm really excited about it.
So, Jessica, Dr. Cerny, does that answer?
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
The only other question I would have then would be like our logos will get updated. Obviously, we'll get new logos come the first of the year to kind of
Yep, you will.
roll with, I guess.
Yes.
So
Yes, you will. And if you are a community that is tied to your logo, I know a few people have already kind of put that into trademarks, things like that. That's okay. You know, we're not going to ask everybody to completely take the tree off if you want to keep it. But you will all get a new logo with your name, specifically with the new Communities for Kids color and font.
I do just want to say thank you, both Jessica and John, for asking that question, because that was one of the things that we really tried to keep in focus also, was that it is uninterrupted partnership to the communities that we partner with. And so there are going to be like those small details, like the logo, like the contact information, but in terms of the behaviors, it's only going to improve again because we have this partnership with First Five, and we can apply in a more focused way that policy perspectives, those economic perspectives, those research and data perspective. So it's something that we're really excited about. So thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk about that also.
Yeah. Unless you want to switch out Chandra and Melissa, we can talk about that offline. But my guess is I'm guessing you want to keep them.
Yeah. A little attached already. So
I'm sure. As is Chandra.
Yeah. Shoot, I had another question and now it's blanking my mind, but yeah, that's all I had for right now.
If you think of it, absolutely let us know. Okay, anybody else?
One other thing I just had, so in a lot of this, so I saw you still had like your 3 different logos, but then it's the Early Futures. So I guess a little bit like organizational wise, you hear a lot about policy. Is that still going to be like kind of under First Five, or is that going to be more labeled as like Early Futures? Just out of like curiosity. So when we're going through and like looking at stuff, does that make sense? That question a little bit. Okay.
Yep. And I'll answer, I think, very similarly to kind of the previous question, is like it's not going to change really anything on our end as far as policy development. So first five will still be the responsible lead for all the policy work, and we will continue to operate just like we have from our side of things.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Well, do you want to throw out one of the canned questions? And then if anybody wants to continue to put questions in, we'll.
They're not canned. This is a thought I'm having on the spot.
Oh, okay.
What types of projects is Early Futures going to work on in this first year?
Who wants to take that one?
I'd say we kick it to Jason to talk about the current focus.
Oh, maybe 304. This would be a good time to talk about that.
Sure, I'm happy to jump in there. We don't have any other questions about anything else. So LB 304, which if you're new to the conversation, that bill is a bill that is focused on removing the sunset for the child care subsidy expansion, which passed a few years ago. So without getting into like the wonky nerd policy talk about it, a couple years ago, the legislature made the wise decision to increase the eligibility for the child care subsidy from 130% federal poverty level up to 185% federal poverty level. So bottom line is that made more families eligible for the child care subsidy. These are working families that really need the supports to be able to make sure their kids have access to quality child care, and then also so that they can fully participate in the workforce. So that bill is LB 485 when that passed. The rub on that was that came with a cost, and the way that the legislature decided to pay for it at the time was with COVID money. And so along with that came a sunset. So the sunset is coming up in 2026. And so in order to make sure families do not lose their eligibility, because this is, I mean, so critical to so many different things in the state, that sunset needs to get removed. And that's what LB 304 would do. And that is a bill that was introduced last session by Senator Wendy DeBoer. And a lot of work has been taking place on that. A lot of discussions are taking place, but that bill has to move forward. And the reason why I say it has to move forward is because if right now, with the increase up to 185% federal poverty level, Nebraska is 35th in the country in terms of what we do in terms of child care subsidy eligibility. So, you know, we're doing okay, but we're not killing it by any means. We're kind of middle of the pack as far as other states are concerned. If the sunset goes into effect and we fall back to 130% federal poverty level, we'll be 48th. We will be one of the very last states in the country. And so, you know, from our perspective, and I think many's perspectives, that's an unacceptable place to be and not have that type of support for our families and for our kids in Nebraska. So First Five has been putting a lot of emphasis around moving LB 304. That is priority 1, 2, and 3 for this upcoming session so that we don't slide back. And as part of that, there's been lots of communication that has taken place, communication efforts that have taken place. If you don't have there's yard signs that are available that you can get, and we were happy to distribute them and get them out to you. We have a full social media campaign around this effort that we would encourage you to participate in. And there will be a public event when more details coming out soon on that come January once the legislative session starts. So this, you know, this is going to be so important that we move this bill from a state standpoint, from a community standpoint, and from a family standpoint. And we're really asking folks to participate and get involved and be advocates for this. I didn't mention, but I should, but we're also launching a letter writing campaign and email campaign so that you can contact your members of the legislature and the governor directly to share just how important this is. So I'd really ask folks to consider that and participate in it, because it's really important.
So I think an example of the connection is that Communities for Kids is a part of that communications campaign supporting this work, in addition to sharing the community meetings. So connecting community meetings to the First Five team so that they can make sure that they are sharing with all of you. So that would be an example of, again, how we're focused on strengthening efforts around the early childhood system.
Yes. And I believe there's still signs available. So if you'd like a yard sign, correct, Jason? I believe, and I think Aaron,
Yep.
you're on. If there are signs,
get
if
you
you
one.
would like one, we'd love to have as many out in people's yards, driveways as possible. So,
And even if we ran out of them and you wanted more, we would print more. So you just let us know.
it's a good thing. Perfect. All right. Other questions? What's everybody got?
Well, I'm just going to throw this out there, and it may be a canned question. And this is probably more geared towards the Communities for Kids communities that have current contracts. I think there has been communication that has gone out from all the technical assistants to those who are doing like the coordination work as well. That might also be the the contracting entity, maybe somebody who does report to web grants. I just want to make sure everybody understands that if you had expenses in December, to be able to pay them in December, don't hold them over till January, because the contract does end December. So we can't emphasize enough working on those expenses, getting them captured and getting them uploaded to web grants as soon as you're able. So for instance, I have a community that has a newspaper ad bill. Typically, the newspaper wouldn't bill them until the following month. We're encouraging them to get a hold of that bill now so that it can be paid, because if it comes in January, it's too late. So if anybody has questions about that, now would be a time to ask. Noelle's on, Kara's on, most of us TAs are on. So just want to make sure everybody's really clear on that this last month of expenses.
I'm not super great at the 10-second pause. And I know one of the questions, I know one of the questions is, what are we most excited about for this transition? And I'm just going to share, because I have to sit on my hands, but I'm going to tell you what I think is so exciting about this. Marty and I were, of course, able to go to the Build conference this week and go and learn from other early childhood systems across various states. And we're going to another meeting where there's a lot of focus on advocacy and, again, just a national perspective. And I will tell you, one of the most unique things in the work that we do in our partnership with First Five and as Early Futures Partnership is that we are creating the communities that are engaged, like all of you. The fact that we're creating local efforts and local innovation and applying, again, that policy perspective from the beginning. It's not just, hey, let's try this, and then we have to update, policymakers or, state agencies. We're doing that from the beginning. And that is something that's incredibly novel. And it feels like other states are very, very interested in that. So just the focus that we all have, and the fact that we're not just thinking about what do I need in my area, but how can we impact a larger system, is something that I think is inspiring. I know that it inspires me. And again, I know that there's great interest just from outside of Nebraska to say, how do you guys do that? And to me, it feels like all of us do that effortlessly. Like we're all very good, all of the communities, all of the people that prioritize this, and starting at the local level to say, hey, we have to look at this from multiple perspectives because we know it's going to benefit us. We know that we need to sustain this. Talking about, Jessica, I remember you and Kale in the initial meeting, you guys said, we want to build an early childhood program. We don't know that we're going to be able to take advantage of it, but we know it's going to impact families so that we can attract people to Stromsburg. That's powerful, thinking into the future. And so I think the fact that that comes to all of us so naturally and the work that we do is is something that I'm really excited about.
I had to laugh a little bit because I think back to that and I'm like, we had an idea, but we did not know exactly where we were going. But
That's all we
we're
need,
moving.
though. And then
We'll get there.
I think
Yeah.
that's the thing that's so important about that partnership piece is that, again, we have the players in the room that can apply all of those different perspectives from communities, from a statewide perspective, from policy, from economics, from research, you know. So I think that that's kind of like this magic secret sauce that excites me all of the time. So
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Rachel, because as I've kind of been looking to see who's all on the call, and um, just another thing that's exciting is really, again, we know everything starts at that community level. We know that those advocates from all of your meetings, from the Policy Leadership Academy, all of that get into progress, but at this conference, we had a line of people that wanted to talk about the work we're doing in Nebraska. So I wish everybody could see that and feel that, and it's not Communities for Kids. It's not First Five. It is the communities that are making this happen. And recently, if you have not watched CBS, Eye on America, 2 of our communities were featured. So Binkelman, I see Alan Gary's on. Didn't see if Trevor or Jen are on out in Gearing, but we had 2 communities in Nebraska that were on national news talking about early care and education and how they're doing it from the community lens. So y'all should get a huge pat on the back because this is what you all are doing. It's just really been fantastic. And that's what makes me excited about this is that it feels like the right thing to do. And it really feels like, again, we're going to be able to be bold and make some substantial systemic changes in Nebraska for early care and education. So excited about that. Jason, what are you excited about besides lunch?
I'm going to say peanut butter and jelly.
Like peanut butter and jelly. Yeah.
Totes.
Yeah. What I'm excited about is that, I think it takes what we've done and formalizes it in a way that there's going to be things that we can enhance in lots of different ways. First and foremost, I think some of the data and research work that we've done at First Five Nebraska and the partnerships that we've had working with communities and working with different entities and what C4K does in terms of how you guys look at your impact and measure impact, because that's really what we use to inform our policies and procedures. And everybody and the communities and people that are a part of that are partners. I mean, this is not projects. These are, we are working with people to try and find the best solutions. And it's like one of those areas where if you let the data and research kind of lead you to the direction, you can say, okay, we're going to take 2 steps this direction. Is the data and what we're trying to do say we should take steps farther, or maybe add jet fuel to that to enhance it from a policy perspective? Because much like democracy, communities are kind of the labs for creativity and innovation, and that applies to lots of different things. And so I'm excited about how that's going to continue to expand those partnerships, because I think it just really grows the opportunity to do big things and generational type of work. And the and Early Futures Partnership is going to give us the platform to be able to do that. Sorry, that's my soapbox speech for the day. So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right, I have one more for the 3 of you. What do you all think makes the partnership between C4K and First Five Nebraska so special?
I'll start
You go.
if that's okay. I think it's, and shared, just specific to the heart of the answer. I think what makes it special is that we're both very like-minded organizations and initiatives, and the people that make up those organizations are very like-minded. Like we are results focused. We are community focused. We want to do good at our very core in terms of what we're doing, and that motivates us to get us up each and every day. And so, which, like, I know does with everyone on this call. But there's just such great alignment between the organizations. That's what I would say.
I would say that I would agree with that. I also think that there's I'm going to say just a little bit of magic in that there's a rhythm between our teams. So all working as part of Early Futures Partnership is again really exciting because we have, it seems like, great set of skills and focus, and like Jason said, we prioritize things in the same way. But outside of that, I also think one of the things that both C4K and First Five have embraced and will continue to under Early Futures Partnership is the fact that when we say we're a statewide organization, we're a statewide organization. We have people spread throughout this entire state and are able and prioritize actually moving throughout the state, not just connecting in virtual ways, but seeing, JR and Mike and Elizabeth in the Panhandle, going to Valentine. I think that that's another thing that I really value from our entire team is that we actually move throughout the state and are in communities having conversations.
Yeah, and I don't know that I have a lot more to add. I completely agree, Jason and Rachel, with your thoughts. I think the other piece is that it has always just felt natural. I shared at the beginning of the presentation today, my first couple months here, there was a recognition that there was some synergy between what we were doing, how we were talking about things. And I think also just a mutual respect of listening and learning, but also understanding that we are all better when we work together. And it really, again, all starts with that local level that children in, Morrill, Nebraska should have equal opportunity to early education as they should in West Omaha. I mean, that's just, I think everybody on our team firmly believes that and are working hard for that. And I do, go back to the 3 Ps. I think that's just a good example of that practice to policy to progress. And I think that everybody firmly is ready for that. And again, ready to take some bold steps to get there. All right. So we're going to do the 10-second pause to see if anybody has any other questions, either in chat or shout it out. Rachel, quiet.
Is it done yet? Is it done yet?
You can do it. You can do it. Okay. You are welcome at any time to reach out to any of us or your C4K TA. Happy to talk to you about any specific questions you have about your community or your work. And again, you can tell we kind of like talking about this. We're a little bit excited, but the only thing I would ask from all of you is that about 12:01, January 1st, 2026, just y'all send us some good vibes. This is a leap of faith for us, but it's also really exciting. So would love to just have your positive vibes being sent for a great start for this organization. And so excited about working with all of you guys as we move forward. So thank you for joining. And again, certainly reach out if anybody has any questions, and happy holidays to everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.